Congress enters its lame duck session this week, and Republican lawmakers are already vowing to repeal or defund parts of the health care reform bill signed into law earlier this year. Republicans are also taking their fight against what they call Obamacare into state capitals and courtrooms around the country. 19 states have joined a lawsuit brought by Florida Attorney General Bill McCollum, who claims the new health care law is too broad and unconstitutional. And in Texas, Republican legislators are proposing to drop out of Medicaid altogether. Last week, Senate Republican leader Mitch McConnell promised to try and repeal the current health care law before it's fully implemented. He spoke on CBS's Face the Nation.
This was a huge, huge issue in the election last Tuesday. A vast majority of Americans feel very, very uncomfortable with this new bill. People who supported us, political independents, want it repealed and replaced with something else. I think we owe it to them to try. Admittedly, it will be difficult with him in the White House, but if we can put a full repeal on his desk and replace it with the kinds of common sense reforms that we were advocating during the debate to reduce spending, we owe it to the American people to do that. If that fails, then we're willing to look at all of the various pieces of this as they become effective and how we might impact trying to carry out our commitment to the American people to keep this awful 2,700-page monstrosity that took over 1/6 of our economy from going into effect.
Speaking at a news conference the day after the midterm elections, House Republican leader John Boehner also underscored the need to repeal health care reform.
I believe that the health care bill that was enacted by the current Congress will kill jobs in America, ruin the best health care system in the world, and bankrupt our country. That means that we have to do everything we can to try to repeal this bill and replace it with common sense reforms that will bring down the cost of health insurance.
Well, a former health insurance insider, now whistleblower, argues the Republicans will ultimately settle for gutting the law of its provisions that protect consumers instead of repealing the law altogether. That's because the insurance industry is a major beneficiary of health care reform. They're also a major contributor to Republican campaigns. Wendell Potter should know. He spent 2 decades as a chief spokesperson for 2 of the nation's largest health insurers, Humana and CIGNA. In June of last year, he made national headlines when he testified on Capitol Hill about the profit motive driving the unscrupulous practices of the insurance industry.
My name is Wendell Potter, and for 20 years I worked as a senior executive at health insurance companies, and I saw how they confuse their customers and dump the sick, so they can satisfy their Wall Street investors.
A few months later, President Obama cited Potter's testimony during a nationally televised address before a joint session of Congress. But despite his criticism, Obama assured the insurance industry he wants to keep it in business.
As one former insurance executive testified before Congress, insurance companies are not only encouraged to find reasons to drop the seriously ill, they are rewarded for it. All of this is in service of meeting what this former executive called Wall Street's relentless profit expectations. Now, I have no interest in putting insurance companies out of business. They provide a legitimate service and employ a lot of our friends and neighbors. I just want to hold them accountable.
That was President Obama speaking last year. We are now joined for the hour by Wendell Potter. His last position in the insurance industry before he left in 2008 was head of communications, CIGNA. We invited CIGNA on the program, but they refused our invitation. Wendell Potter is now senior fellow on healthcare for the Center for Media and Democracy. His first book is just out. It's called Deadly Spin. An insurance company insider speaks out on how corporate PR is killing healthcare and deceiving Americans. We turn now to Wendell Potter. Welcome to Democracy Now!
Thank you, Amy. Thanks for inviting me.
It's very good to have you with us. What do you think is going to happen in Congress?
I think you'll hear it'll be sound and fury for one thing. You'll see that the Republicans in the House who will be chairing committees will be having a lot of hearings. They will be going through the motions of repealing the legislation. We'll see it on the Senate side too, but they're not really genuinely serious about that. They, in their comments on TV that we just saw, they're talking to the people who elected them, not to the people who finance their campaigns, like the insurance companies.
But don't the insurance companies like this legislation?
They do. And that's why this will not be repealed. They like a lot about it. This legislation, we call it health care reform, but it doesn't really reform the system. There are a lot of good things in there that does make some of the practices of the insurance industry illegal, things that should have been made illegal a long time ago. So for that matter, there are good things here. But it doesn't reform the system. It is built around our health insurance system, as the president said. And they want to keep it in place because it also guarantees that they will have a lot of new members and billions of dollars in new revenue in the years to come.
How does it ensure that?
One of the core component of this, and it's kind of ironic, but the one thing that the Republicans and conservatives are saying they want to repeal is the provision that we all have to buy coverage from private insurance companies.
Like we do for auto insurance.
Exactly right. And they're saying that that's unconstitutional. That's also all for show, because it is just an effort to try to, in a sense, turn people away from the idea of reform. It sounds complicated, but it's a part of the insurance company's strategy. They want to have more Republicans in Congress because they thrive in an environment in which Republicans are controlling one house or both in Congress, or state houses and state governorships.
But would they ever have gotten this mandate if the Republicans were in power? The mandate to appease the insurance industry so it wouldn't torpedo the rest?
Actually, the idea of a mandate is something that Republicans in the past have embraced, and it's been it was a central tenet of the insurance companies' ideas for reform, and it was their biggest need in this legislation, the other being the making sure that the public option was not included in the legislation. But they want this to go forward with that provision. They just don't like some of the consumer protections in the bill.
We're talking to Wendell Potter, former chief spokesperson for CIGNA, and before that for Humana, the insurance industry's greatest fear, top insider turning out and deciding to blow the whistle on the companies. This is Democracy Now! We'll be back in a minute.